I want to take, I know we need to move on to the other machine, and we forgot to mention one cool new feature that we've added this year that I do want to
Hold on.
share, and that is our what we call our more dynamic stacking modes. So I'm going to zoom into this picture. Hopefully you can all see it. Um,
Can you hear me? Before you do it, there was a question that came up before you move on.
okay, go ahead.
Go ahead and
Uh,
ask your question.
Yes, Andy Mason. You talked earlier about down pressure on your heads and your frame. Can you go in a little bit greater detail on that?
On the cutter heads you're talking about?
Yes.
Okay. So dual down pressure is not something that's necessarily new to the industry, but we have the capability of you can change the pressure on your cutter head roller independent of your boom roller. So just like any other dual headed machine or dual down pressure machine, you have control of that, and it'll put down enough pressure that you can actually lift the front tires off the ground. You know, recommend it, but you can put down so much that it'll actually lift them up. There is one thing that I will mention about our cutter head pressure, though, is that not only is it important how much pressure you can put down, but sometimes it's important how much pressure you don't put down. Meaning our cutter head actually has the capability of running negative pressure. And in certain circumstances, we've noticed that, you know, certain moisture levels in certain types of soil, especially with slab machines, you know, if you're pressing down too much, even enough that you're pressing just the weight of the cutter head itself, it squishes the pieces out and deflects them. And you can actually run negative pressure on our cutter heads if you need to.
And I'd also like to mention, as you're talking about the pressures we can apply on the boom roller, which is the front roller, and the cutter head roller. And we've also added this year some unique modes to that, where if you're in soft conditions and you're harvesting along, if you stop your machine, uh, the cutter head or the rollers can actually make a hole in the ground, right? Because you're not moving anymore. And or if you had to slow down for a reason, uh, you know, the relative pressure based on your speed changes. And so we've added it's an optional mode you can turn on with this machine, but it actually will vary the pressure of either the head or the boom or both that is speed dependent. And so you can start your machine and you can tailor how it does this. And there's kind of a graphical interface of how you can tailor your pressures as they want to, as you control your speed. In addition, you can also control your blade speed relative to your ground speed with the new R300 as well. So where that gets useful is if I'm in sand, for example, um, I don't want to shake that sand. You know, I don't want to shake the piece to death when I'm cutting it. And so when you're speeding up or slowing down your harvesting, you can actually tailor your blade speed to speed up and slow down proportionally according to your very specific settings that you want. And it keeps your blade movement relative to the ground more consistent. And that we're the only people that do these kinds of advanced modes with the cutter head. Now you don't have to use them; you can use them in more traditional ways. But the cutter head, blade speed, front boom pressure, head pressure are all extremely tailor. You know, you can tailor them to your heart's content, and it's actually one of the things I enjoy. Uh, and never ceases to amaze me actually how in tune the farmers are to the blade itself, how it's performing in the field, and we've gotten a lot of good feedback of how much control we can put on our cutter head and the adjustments that we can make, how we can tailor it to conditions and just to very fine detail. So we're really proud of our cutter head. not just the control aspects of it, but the mechanical aspects of it. It's the best cutter head in the world. I don't hesitate saying that. I've seen them all, and it works really good. And FireFly, we spend a lot of money every year and doing demo tours. And when we do these demo tours, we hit dozens and dozens of farms in just a short amount of time. And we like doing it because we like showing off our machine, one, but even more important, we love going to the different conditions. You know, we love being able to make changes to our machine, engineering changes, so that Dan, when he's going from farm to farm, has the confidence to drive the truck off the machine and go cut grass, because we can handle conditions in ways that is not commonly done. So one of the things I wanted to mention really quickly, and hopefully this is visible in this picture, that you see that pallet. It's a pretty good pallet, but it's leaning one way. And for those of you who've harvested rolls, this is a very common looking pallet where the pallet's leaning forward. And this grass that we're cutting here was pretty heavy. And so it's leaning forward because the forks are actually bending as the pallet's getting full. Now it's not bending a lot, and it's normal for forks to deflect a little bit. That's not a problem, but it does change the stacking, right? And so the pallet ends up leaning one direction, and you get inconsistent press as well. And so you see pronounced leanings of pallets. It's common with automated roll harvesters. The FireFly R300 has an option that allows you to tailor in offsets as you stack so that the pallet does not lean like that. So these 4 pallets here that I have, we progressively tuned in those offsets. And you can see the pile on the far right of your screen is leaning quite a bit, less and less and less, until at the end, we had a perfectly straight pallet, even though we have fork deflection on heavy, dense sod that we were cutting. And so this is another feature that's new that we've added this year to the R300. Super excited about it. Just another way that we try to make the machine really easy to operate, and I think we have that. But when you want to dig into detail and really tailor your machine for a particular condition, you know, the adjustability and the controllability of the FireFly is phenomenal. It's second to none.
Andy, I think you may have already put on chat, but did we answer your question okay? The previous question?
Yes, you did. I was just thinking about quality of cut sometimes in some different field situations where you can get a won't have as much waste, I guess. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Any other questions? Anybody? Wait, there was a question earlier about somebody wanted to delete the def on the machine. Well, good thing is that's already been done for you. On our machines, on our harvesters, there is no def. There's no regen cycles. There's no particulate filters. You don't have to worry about any of the tier 4 problems like that. You know, unfortunately, tier 4, it's here to stay, and we're all subject to it. And so we'd spoken earlier, maybe those that weren't in the room earlier, and this goes along with our slab machine too. But as you know, being able to run our machines with an engine with less horsepower allows us to get away with not having def. So we're below the 75 horsepower threshold. Again, we don't need that much horsepower to do what we're doing. We're very efficient. You know, one of the things about electric motors generally when it across all of our machines is an electric motor is 90% plus efficient with its power usage, whereas a hydraulic motor is maybe 40% at best. And so, you know, one thing that I've learned, I'm not an engineer, I'm not a mathematician, but you know, horsepower doesn't disappear. It doesn't just go away into nothing. It goes into something. And we want to use our horsepower into producing grass on the pallet. we don't want to produce heat in the form of hydraulic heat. We don't want to produce noise in inefficiencies that way. We don't want to waste the horsepower. We want to use the horsepower we need, and we don't want to waste it. And, you know, again, that goes back to the question I posed earlier, is how can we do the same amount, if not more work, with half the horsepower? Where's the rest of the horsepower going on other machines? It's a question you can think about. You know, I'm not going to get into it. I'm not going to analyze somebody else's machine, but it's something that you can think about, is where does the horsepower go? It's got to go somewhere. It's not just disappearing.